Hi, I'm Haley Chapman. This is Jared Stowell, and we founded Christopher Robotics to create a robot that is geared towards home automation and health monitoring.
So let's start with that first one really quick. So health monitoring, Christopher Robotics is founded on the idea of helping those who wish to age in place, which is the idea that as you grow old, you want to stay in your own home for as long as possible. And statistically, 80 to 90% of people in the aging generation wish to do that.
Between Jared and myself, we've had more than our fair share of grandparents falling. And statistically, 1 in every 4 people over the age of 65 will fall every year. So, and the more time someone spends on the ground before they get back up, the less likely they are to make a full recovery. Now, assisted living facilities and nursing homes may seem like the obvious solution to this issue, but there's nothing worse than spending ridiculous amounts of money or giving away your independence, except for spending ridiculous amounts of money and giving away your independence. So, while it's entirely valid for families to worry about their loved ones as they age, fear of an accident should not play as big a role in potentially giving away all of your independence like it seems to do so frequently.
So let's imagine for a second that there's a product that you could purchase that would allow you to know that your loved one is safe, that they're in good hands, and that they're in good hands and it's not going to break the bank. So by 2020, we want to introduce Christopher to the market. Christopher is a robotic system. This is Christopher version 0.3. He's a little rough around the edges, literally.
We did build this version in the past 4 days, though, so with more time, there's a lot more that we can do.
Christopher has a variety of sensors ranging everywhere from LiDAR to smoke to other hydrocarbons. So make sure that you're safe in your home environment. But what is most importantly is that he can detect your rate of breath. He can do respiratory rate monitoring.
So you may be wondering, why do I need to know how fast I'm breathing? I know I am breathing, there's no problem. Well, there are certain issues that there are studies that show there are correlations between your respiratory rate and issues such as asthma, sleep apnea, anxiety, pneumonia, other lung disease, and certain respiratory patterns can even be indicative of having had a stroke. So long term, it's useful to be able to have Christopher who can export this data into a report to hand over to your medical professional. And short term, it's pretty significant because he can detect rapid and very sudden anomalies in breathing that can be indicative of having fallen, having had a stroke, having a heart attack even.
Let's say for a minute that you have a loved one who has a Christopher, and let's say it's your mother, she lives alone, and we detect an anomaly. Okay? She's alert, but she needs help. There's no smart home system, no Alexa, no Google Home, that can alert, that can call phone numbers. So let's change the scenario. Christopher can call phone numbers. So if we change the scenario and say, well, let's say they hit their head and they're unconscious. Well, Christopher can detect that, and he can alert. He can call 911. He can alert your family and let them know of that situation.
So there's no help, I've fallen, can't get up, but I can't hit my button either. There's no Alexa, please call. Well, Alexa can't call. So to move away from the health monitoring, there's also the home assistance aspect that we mentioned. So we are about to break ground on our own virtual personal assistant platform, which will include many interesting features, but one of which that we're proud of is a voice profile system, which will allow users to create a personal voice for their own Christopher, whether that be Morgan Freeman or their own granddaughter, just by reading off a few paragraphs into the microphone.
We'd also like to incorporate Christopher with all of the existing technologies such as smart plugs and thermostats and all of such. Additionally, within the next few months, we're going to be working on scaling up Christopher,
So we won't need a table to show them to you next time.
and we'll be adding manipulator arms, because we recognize that not everything is easily controlled through software. Sometimes you need to be able to interact in the physical world.
Right, so to recap, Christopher is useful not only in the home of an aging loved one, but to enhance the quality of life in any household.
So we're asking for $25,000 to fund Christopher for the next year, enable us to scale Christopher up, and get 10 prototypes in different environments so that we can keep collecting our data and accurately improving our systems and algorithms.
So this money will also go towards research and development for extended capabilities for Christopher. So thank you for listening, and judges, do you have any questions for us?
Are you two doing all the development?
Yes.
Yes, but we'll be expanding shortly, likely.
Can you shed a little more light on use of manipulator arms and other hardware embodiments to actually improve like a personal assistant type aid? Am I understanding that right?
So the personal assistants will be primarily for voice. You can open the door if you'd like, you can pick something off the ground, but we won't be able to, it won't be designed for helping you get out of your chair or anything. I don't think, at that point, we believe that the weight required for developing that system would be irrational.
But you can have Christopher bring you stuff, like
Yes.
bring me something from the fridge, or
If you want a beer, you gotcha.
And then he's calling 911 for you.
Are you planning on patenting any of this, or is this patentable?
We are still looking at our IP situation, but it is very clear that there is quite a bit there in the, especially in home mapping and voice assistance.
So sorry, I gotta ask too, why wouldn't you just put the sensors inside of like a smoke alarm or some other embodiment then? I mean, if this is primarily a home safety play, you know, I mean, you got sort of Alexa, and you got these Alexa dots, and then you can just put a smaller dot in each room, and then you have the sensors there. So why the robot? I mean, I'm still trying to understand how much the robot itself is actually helpful for you guys to achieve your home healthcare monitoring goals.
So the thing about respiratory monitoring is the way it works is a very high resolution radar. Those are not cheap. So you're talking about upwards of $500 per room just to detect people within 15 feet. So it wouldn't make sense to put them all over the room when you could just have one that is mobile. If you have very large rooms, you can have a robot follow 10 feet behind you, or you can have them throughout your giant living room. So economically, it makes much more sense to just have.
And then there's also the issue at the moment that most smart home devices can only communicate with other like smart home devices. So Alexa can only call other Alexa devices. But Christopher does have the capability to communicate via phone call and SMS text message with any valid phone number, including 911.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
I think this is a great idea. I think with the baby boomer age, elderly parents, and being concerned about them, you know, something to think about is that generation isn't very tech savvy. Their children are and their grandchildren are, so it does seem to be user friendly. And another thought is, you know, you can get the scooters. I think Medicare pays for scooters for people. I wonder if there's a way to extend their time at home by having some kind of offset in that area and logging that.
I think it's also worth considering maybe actually, because there is application development for Alexa. I mean, there's third party connected to Alexa. You might consider